We found Emma Fountain in the Book of Habitual Criminals, so we know what she looks like. So this is the jail register, which will tell us a little bit more information about her. Yeah. So she's down towards the bottom here, and we can see that she belonged to the Church of England, and that she could read. That's what that R means. Confirms that she was married, she had no occupation, and it gives details of her age and her height and how she looked. But here, for us, this is the most interesting bit, because it tells us what she did. So she's obtaining by false pretences 6 pounds 3 ounces weight of pork with intent to defraud at Cheltenham on the 2nd of February 1870. So from that we could go and have a look at the Cheltenham newspapers to see if the case was reported. And you can also see that it was a relatively small amount of meat. 6 pounds 3 ounces would be, what, about 3 kilos of pork? So not a huge amount. So it makes you wonder why she was stealing this, whether she was going to sell it, whether it was a crime of poverty and she was so desperately hungry, she and her family, that they were going to eat it. I don't know. So if we go on, she was found guilty and she was sentenced to 3 months in the prison with hard labour. So that was really quite a hard sentence for her, because the prison wouldn't have been very pleasant, and she would be on probably a fairly restricted diet and having to do a quota of manual work each day. So it was quite a bad thing. So it tells you when she came out. So she came out at the end of June because she'd served her term. And here it gives us a little bit of information about her and her family. So it says she was married with 1 child, confirms she belonged to the Church of England, says she was born in Cheltenham, and she was known to Police Constable Dave for 3 years. Nothing previously known about her, so this was a first offence, and she got 3 calendar months in prison with hard labour. And her husband was a man called William Fountain of Cheltenham. So with this information, we could have a look at sources like the census returns just to find out a bit more about the family. And from that, we might be able to gauge a bit more about the circumstances that led her to this crime. If we found that her husband was maybe ill or disabled or unable to work, no occupation, then it would suggest that she was perhaps very poor, needed food on the table. But the interesting thing here is that there was another person who was charged at the same time. So if you look at this one, this is a little girl, because she was only 12. And she was called Annie Hawkes, and she was charged with exactly the same crime. So whether they worked a little bit like Fagin and his lads as a double act, I don't know. But this girl, she was acquitted. So again, it makes you wonder what the circumstances around this incident were. And it tells you a little bit about her. So she was born in Cheltenham. She also had been known to Police Constable Day, and she had no previous convictions. Not surprisingly, she wasn't married. So again, you should be able to find her in the 1871 census, which might suggest what her relationship to Emma Fountain was, whether she was a neighbour, whether she actually was a blood relative, I don't know. But these are very interesting books, because they give us a lot of information about the whole range of people who were put in prison. And if you just look at this page, you can see how very young all the offenders are. In fact, Emma Fountain at 22 was the oldest one on this page, which is amazing, really. And when you look at the heights of people, you see how very short they were compared with people today, and that must have been due to their diet. So children just didn't have the nutrition to grow. And in particular, there's this little 14-year-old boy who's only 4'8", which is astonishing. And this boy, 18, is 5'1", and most 18-year-olds now are sort of 6'1".